Welcome to the Uncensored Self Podcast. I am your host, Ryann Gillen, and this is a space where women who value achievement, success, accomplishment, and wealth, but also crave happiness, love, joy, and deep fulfillment come to remember that we get to have both. Not by doing more, but by being more of who we truly are. In this show, we explore identity, energy, alignment, and embodiment because you didn't come here to follow someone else's rules. You came to right your own. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Uncensored Self Podcast. I am your host, Ryann Gillen, and today I have kind of a different format for you. So I went to Colorado with my girlfriends for the weekend. It was just the most fun trip. It was my first girls trip I've ever taken in my life, and it was just really great. And we had an incredible time, but I knew that I was going to record a podcast for you guys this week, and I was like, I'm going to go to the mountains and I'm going to see what becomes clear. So when I come back, I can record the show for you. And what was really interesting is nothing really specific came through. So I was like, okay, what are we going to talk about this week? And intuitively, what came through was talk about what you've been talking to people about. So there are 3 really specific topics that I'm going to kind of hit on in this conversation. And I'm going to run this almost a little bit like I would a coaching call, right? So when I coach clients, obviously we have some key things we focus on as far as it being business therapy, right? But everything always comes up. All hands on deck. So some person might be talking about money. Somebody else might be talking about their marriage. Somebody else might be talking about, this situation going on in their business. And so we just kind of had these really roundtable conversations. And what I found is energetically, people always get what they need. So in today's podcast, I'm going to record the 3 things that I have been hearing the most. And I'm going to trust that you get what you need out of this conversation. But I'm going to teach you something right now. Are you listening? I want you to listen to this podcast with that intention. The intention is I get what I need. I don't necessarily know. Maybe one of these scenarios or these situations isn't exactly mine, but I'm going to take what I can from this lesson and see how I can apply this to my life, because I am a believer wholeheartedly. I believe in universal law. I believe in the law of attraction. And I believe that there's no way you would be listening to this podcast right here, right now, if you weren't an energetic match to the lessons that I'm going to leave you with today. So open your heart, open your mind, and let's dive in. And the first topic that I want to talk about is clarity and vision. So if you have not listened to the Mid-Year Comeback series, it's a really great series here on the podcast, completely free. I encourage you to go back and listen to it. But I believe it was teaching 2 when I talked about vision and getting really clear on vision. And that was the number 1 episode that I got questions about from people. People were like, vision, I don't have one of those. I don't know what to do about that. Like, I don't really know what I want. And so what would happen in conversations with people when we would talk about this is they would then turn around and tell me all the things that they do not want, right? So I'd be like, okay, cool. Let's talk about vision. Like, what are you working towards? I'd be like, well, I don't want to do this, and I don't want to do this, and I don't want it to look like this, and I just need this, and I just need that. And I was like, whoa, this is why we have a vision problem. We have a vision problem because we're focused on what we do not want. And what we know in this show is that what we focused on expands. So if we are constantly focused on, I don't want to work nights and weekends. I don't want to work with asshole clients. I don't want to have to struggle with money. I don't want to have to do work I don't want to do. Our focus is on what we do not want. And then we just continue to get more of what we want. So then how do we find vision? We can't find vision from a place of all the shit we don't want. We find vision when we focus on what we do want. So if you are somebody who right now feels like vision feels hard for me, like, Ryan, I don't really know what vision is. I don't really know how to cast one of those. I'm not 100% sure what this looks like. Then this is probably why, because you don't have a vision because you are so caught up in all of the things that you don't like. You're so caught up in all of the things that aren't going well, or all of the things that you can't have, or the vacation you can't book, or whatever it is, right? And so there is no vision there. Because as Einstein tells us, you cannot solve a problem from the same level of consciousness that created it. Your current level of consciousness created the existing problem. The solution is unavailable at this frequency. I'm going to say that to you again. The solution is unavailable to you at this frequency because it doesn't exist at this frequency. This is the frequency of the problem. So if we want a solution, if we want clarity, if we want vision, if we want direction, we have to first change our frequency, our energy, so that we can start to find clarity. How do we do that? That's what you're wondering. You're like, that sounds amazing. How do I change my frequency? So what creates frequency, right? Frequency comes from vibration, and what I teach my clients, what I have learned, what my lived experience is thoughts, feelings, and actions. Thoughts, feelings, and actions create your vibration, frequency, right? I'm not a scientist, guys. But so my thoughts, my feelings, and actions are creating my frequency. And right now, my thoughts, feelings, and actions are creating the problem that I currently have in my life, right? So I need to turn my frequency up. How do I do that? I turn my frequency up by focusing on things I enjoy. What's really cool about this, though, is you don't have to go looking for changing your frequency. If money's your thing, if you're like, I just want, like one of my clients was like, I just want enough money to plan vacation while I'm on the vacation. Like I want to be like, okay, cool, this vacation was amazing. I want to be able to stroke a check for the next one. Right? Like right here, right now, I want to be booking the next vacation instead of thinking we can't afford another vacation. I wish we could do this more often. Like this is costing us so much, right? We tend to do that to ourselves. So at that frequency, right, there is no solution. But what's happening here is, right, we are an energetic match to the problem, and we are focused on the problem, and we are at the frequency of the problem. So we need to turn it up. So we want a vacation, we want to be able to book the vacation. I think I'm getting a little convoluted here, but I'm going to land this plane for you. Is energetically, how does it feel to be on vacation? It feels amazing. It feels free. It feels fun. I feel like I have control of my day. I feel like I get to do things I really enjoy. Awesome. Let's start doing that now. Go do things you enjoy now. Go do things that are fun now. Go do things that light you up. Spend your day doing things that you enjoy now. And that is naturally going to shift your frequency, just like vacation shifts your frequency. And once your frequency is shifted, then you can set the intention of clarity, vision. What am I working towards? What do I really want out of life? Right? But if you are in, oh my God, this sucks. Vacation's so expensive. I don't have any money. I hate that we don't get to do this more frequently. I hate that we have to do this on a budget. There's no solution there. When it's like, what do I want vacation to feel like? I want it to feel like freedom. I want it to feel like choices. I want it to feel like I'm the one driving my time. I want it to feel like I can do as much or as little as I want to. Amazing. So when we can get in there in our head, in our body, in our thoughts, in our energy, then we are at a higher frequency. And when we are at that higher frequency, then we can say, hey, I wonder, what would a vision for my life or my business or career look like? What am I actually working towards? And you are going to be amazed at the answers that come to mind when you ask yourself the question when you are in a higher frequency. So if you are somebody who is really struggling with vision and purpose and clarity right now, I want you to go do something that changes your energy. Go for a walk. Go have a cup of coffee with a friend. Don't talk about your problems. Talk about something else, right? Go, buy some art supplies. I had a client recently do that. She went out and bought art supplies. She's like, I haven't created in years. I'm like, cool. Your homework, go to the store, buy art supplies, start creating art, right? When we start, I had another client who what she's been doing really consistency is walking every day and like spending a lot of time with her family. And in such a short period of time, she's like, oh my God, I love my family so much. I love the way we spend time together. She's taking walks. She's hanging out with her sister. She's doing this cool stuff. And then I was like, cool. Now that we have adjusted our frequency, now we get to start asking the questions that we couldn't find the answers to 4 weeks ago, right? Now we say, okay, what's the next step? What am I going to do here? What would this look like for me? What would be really amazing? What opportunities would I be really excited about? And then from there, now the ideas are flowing in, so the opportunities coming in, and now she's able to cast vision. But 4 weeks ago, she couldn't cast vision because she was so stuck in, I don't know what I want. I just know that I don't want this. So first of all, be kind to yourself, right? You did not know this information not too terribly long ago. You're learning something new, and now you're learning how to implement it, and give yourself a lot of grace with this. But if you are really somebody who feels like you don't have a handle on your vision, you can't find it where you are. Go raise your frequency, raise your vibration, get into a good mood, be really intentional about it. And then when you're there, start asking yourself those questions you feel like you don't have the answer to. The key here, though, is to trust the answers, because the answers that come through may not make sense. They may not be the things that you think. Like you might think like, Ryann, I know what I want. I just want more money. I just want more money. I just want more clients. I just want my business to grow, right? I just want that new job. I just want that promotion. I know exactly what I want. That's not a vision. That's a desire. That's something that goes on a vision board, right? A vision is, this is the type of life that I'm creating. I want to create a life that feels like this. I want to do business that feels this way. I want to spend my time doing these types of things that are really important to me. This is the impact I want to make in the world. This is the impact I want to make on my family. This is, again, how we spend our time, how we spend our money. This is what we do. That's a vision. Wanting to hit a monetary goal is not a vision, it's a goal. And quite frankly, I'm not a big fan of that. Go back and listen to last week's podcast about, running our business like men. And goals and very linear, direct, straightforward spreadsheet goals are masculine energy, which is also probably why when we just say, I want to make X number of dollars, that's not a vision, that's a goal. And it doesn't feel aligned to us, because we actually, and this is so true, I've said this before, but I think this is important. We don't want what we want. We want the way we think it's going to make us feel. So you don't necessarily, you're like, but Ryann, of course I want the money. You do. You want the money, but you want the money because you think the money is going to make you feel free. You want the money because you think the money is going to make you feel successful. It's going to make you feel proud. It's going to make you feel safe. You don't want money just for it to stack up in your bank account. I have a client who was telling me a story that her and her husband had a really big, like a 6-figure savings goal, and she hit the goal. And she was like, I don't know what to do next, Ryann. Like it doesn't feel any different, A, and B, I don't even know what to go after next, right? So that's where I was like, yeah, if all we do is say I want X number of dollars in a savings account, when you get there, it's not going to feel the way that you think it does, and it's not going to inspire vision. Vision comes from creativity. Vision comes from your heart. Vision comes from, this is what I want my life to look like and feel like. So if you are somebody who is struggling with this, change your frequency, ask yourself some different questions, and be okay when the answers are not what you think that they are or should be, right? That's the fun part and the hard part about this work, especially for people like you and I who are very focused and can achieve pretty much anything we set our heart to, is when the vision comes through very different from the path that you think that you're on, you're very likely going to rebel. Your brain's going to be like, nope, 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 nope. Don't know how to do that. Can't do that. Can't make time for that. That's bananas. What are you thinking? Don't do that, right? Even if it feels like I have no idea how to do this thing that just came to mind, it doesn't matter. Write it down. It's there for a reason. You are an energetic being living in a human body. So when you get ideas and impulses and things like that, even though they make no sense, they're there for a reason. They can only be there because you're an energetic match to them. They can only be there because you asked for them. So that weird and wild idea that feels like, oh my God, you want me to start completely over in this career? The answer is yes. And I don't want you to start over. God, source, the universe doesn't want you to start over. You want to start over. And you know that because when you are in a good mood and you feel amazing and your frequency is higher, the thing is, I fucking hate this job and I want to go do something different. Cool, go. Your logical brain's going to be like, I can't do that. How am I going to pay the mortgage? Don't know. Don't know. Don't know. We don't have to know. We have to find the match. We have to find the energetic match. We have to cast the vision. And then once we cast the vision, we take one step at a time. That's the other thing we want. I can't go after what I want because I have no idea how to get there. Cool. I'm going to give you a real life example. When you decided to have a kid, if you have kids, right? Get married, buy a house, get a dog, any of those things in life that are relatively permanent-ish in nature, right? Did you know what you were doing? Because I know when I had a kid, I had no fucking idea what I was doing. No clue. No clue. I got 2 of them. They're 6 and 8. Still, most days don't feel like I know what I'm doing. But every single day, I put one foot in front of the other because I have a vision for my life, for my kids, for what I want for them as adults, what I can control, which isn't a whole lot, but I know what I can control. And so I'm focused on that, but I don't know how. I don't know how they're 6 and 8. I have no idea, right? But I know that that's what I want. But oftentimes we poo-poo our vision. We poo-poo what we want because we don't know how we're going to get there. And so if you do that, I'm just telling you now, if you poo-poo what comes to mind when you are in a great mood and you feel amazing and you get an idea and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so good and this feels amazing in my body, and you instantly go, nope, don't know how to do that, you are now choosing to stay where you are. It's a choice. That's what I mean when I say this work is a choice. Because your intuition, God, source, the universe, the bigger part of you just said, hey, this is the next step. And your tiny little human said, nope, not gonna do that. So now you are choosing to not do what your soul is calling you to do. And you get to decide how you feel about that. I don't know about you, but that's not a good feeling. So that's what I have on clarity and vision. Another topic that has come up 2 or 3 times in the past 2 weeks, which I thought was really interesting, is around what if my partner or the people around me aren't doing this work? So one woman in particular, it was her husband, somebody else it was like a colleague, somebody else it was a business partner, right? Where they like, these people think I'm crazy. Like when I tell them about the energy game and energy match and I just want to do things that feel really good, people are like, nope, that doesn't make any sense. Look at my spreadsheet. My spreadsheet does not align with that. And so it was like, well, what do I do? And here's what I'm going to tell you on this. Here's the coaching I gave this client and the coaching I'm going to give you. You are the creator of your reality, not your husband, not your kids, not your boss, not your clients, not the amount of money in your bank account. None of those things create your reality. You create your reality. So if your husband, sister, cousin, uncle, business partner, child doesn't align with what you're doing, that doesn't matter, because the only point of attraction, the only energy that you have any actual influence over is your own. And so you can continue to create, use the energy game, set goals, do things you enjoy. And that person over there does not have to align with it. They don't have to. And the more that you try to get them to align with it, the more that you try to get them on board, the harder it's going to be, because people have to be ready for this work. Not everybody is ready for this work. Not everybody wants to play the energy game. Some people really enjoy their human experience and working really hard and taking all of their excuses. Like some people really, really enjoy that. And that's cool. That is their path. That is their point of attraction. That is their energy. That is their thing. You cannot change that. And the harder you try to change that, the harder it will be. So when you say, thank you, I appreciate it so much. I know that you're just looking out for me. That's it. Somebody says, have to cold call if you want to be successful as a real estate agent. You're allowed to say, hey, if that's your thing, that's cool. It's not for me, but thank you for the idea, right? That's it. If your husband says, this hippy dippy bullshit isn't going to work. You say, hey, I totally appreciate your perspective. I'm just going to try it out. I'll let you know how it goes. Right? But you do not need anybody else to be on board for you to go after what you want. The reason why this feels so uncomfortable is because the world has taught us that other people need to be on board. This is external validation, right? It's external validation. I need my husband on board. I need my business partner on board. I need my kids on board. I need somebody on board, which is actually going to lead me to the third thing we're going to talk about, which is self-trust. But I'm not there yet. But that's the thing. Other people have their own point of attraction, and they are attracting their experience. You have your own point of attraction, and you are attracting your experience. If you need other people to be on board with your experience, it is going to be a long, hard road. If you can say, I respect that person's experience, and I respect what they're dealing with, what their belief systems are, whatever it is. However, I'm going to continue to prioritize myself because I know I'm the creator of my reality. I'm the asset, and I'm the only one that is going to make sure that outcome happens. So I'm going to take care of me. But we don't have to be mean. We don't have to be a bitch. We don't have to tell them we're wrong. We don't have to tell them to go fuck themselves. We don't have to tell them that we don't want to hang out with them anymore. We just have to say, hey, I really appreciate your perspective. This is the work that I'm choosing to do right now. And so I'm just going to continue with it. And you can continue with yours. And we're going to be good here. Right? That is so uncommon, right? We live in a world where we feel the need to force our ideas and beliefs on other people but this is still external validation. If you need somebody else to be on board with your ideas, you still need external validation. It might feel like I'm just trying to help them. I want their life to be easier too. I want their life to be better too. I'm sure you do. However, if you're really honest with yourself, the reason why you want them to do or say whatever it is that you want them to do or say is because you want to feel validated. Like, oh, if I can get my husband on board with this stuff, then I'll know it's actually going to work, right? If I can get so-and-so on board, then I can really trust that it's going to work. This is actually more of a self-trust issue than it is an issue with the other person. What winds up happening that's really beautiful is as you change your frequency, as you change your energy, people who are not a match for your energy are naturally going to go away. And I honestly think that's one of the biggest reasons why so many women are afraid to do this work, because they are afraid they are going to have to make changes in relationships they're not prepared to make. And if this applies to you, you know exactly what I'm saying because I was you, right? I knew when I went all in on this that my marriage wasn't going to survive. I knew because we were not an energetic match, because who I was at the age of 30 and what I wanted out of life and what my frequency was at that point in time when I got married, I was not that person anymore. That was no longer a match. And my partner was not in a place where he wanted to do the work, and I wasn't going to force him to because that's not my job. So I chose to get a divorce. And a lot of people, I think, are afraid if I do this work, it's going to be something like that. It's going to be a divorce, or I'm going to have to stop talking to my best friend from third grade who's a complete and total asshole, or I'm going to have to set some boundaries with my mother. I'm going to have to go no contact with that whomever who calls me and yells at me all the time. And that's hard because the world has told us that's family. You know, that's family. You can't go no contact with family. They're family. I tell my mother often, I love family. I also know that just because we share blood does not mean that we are on the same path in life, and that's okay. And I know not everybody believes that, but it's the truth of the matter, right? The truth of the matter is, if you continue to make other people's needs and opinions more important than your own, your journey is always going to be longer and harder. And I speak from extremely personal experience. When I started prioritizing what I wanted, even with Derek, even with my partner, who we are so aligned in so many ways, when we first started dating, I ran my business ideas by him. I was like, what are your thoughts on this? And what are your thoughts on this? And I'm thinking about this. And this idea came in. And sometimes I didn't like his response. He was like, why would you do this? And why would you do that? So now I just don't ask him until the idea is fully cooked, right? I don't go to him with half-baked ideas anymore because I don't actually want him to validate or invalidate my ideas. Like, until my ideas are fully cooked enough where I know you can't talk me out of it, I don't share them. It is a very new skill. It's one I'm still mastering, but I have learned that. So now I no longer I don't need his validation. The idea is cooked. If you don't like it, that's cool, but my idea is cooked. And what's beautiful is he respects that in me and I respect that in him. Sometimes he brings things to me and I'm like, that's not for me. But his idea is cooked and I'm not going to change it because he's in charge of his vibration and his frequency and his life and his point of attraction. And I'm in charge of mine. And then we're going to land this plane. We're going to bring it home with learning to trust yourself. And I actually recorded an entire podcast on this. If you don't listen to the Happy Agent Collective with Courtney Benson, you should. You should also join her Facebook community. Courtney's a friend, a client, and somebody who has just been so kind in sharing business therapy with her community. And so a lot of you came here from Courtney, but we recorded a whole pod on intuition and trusting your gut. And the reason why is because when Courtney was like, hey, do you want to podcast with me? Like, what are you seeing? That's the thing, is a lot of people really struggle to trust themselves, right? We struggle to cook an idea enough that it is cooked enough that if somebody tells us they don't like it, that we don't feel the need to change it, right? Because if we have an idea and then somebody tells us we need to change it and we change it, we don't trust ourselves. Why don't we trust ourselves? Well, A, there's nobody in life that you have lied to more than yourself. Quite frankly, we all have really shitty relationships with ourselves. We are unkind to ourselves. We don't keep commitments to ourselves. We say mean things about our ideas. We say mean things about our bodies. We judge ourselves based on our bank accounts and how successful our businesses are. And then we want to trust ourselves. And those two things don't exist at the same time. So self-trust comes from building a relationship with yourself, which is quite literally the foundation of energy work. It's quite literally the foundation of business therapy and everything else that I do. It's realizing that it is just you creating your reality. And if you do not speak kindly to yourself, if you do not keep commitments to yourself, if you do not learn to love yourself in your imperfection, you will always be stuck playing the mind game. Because if I'm the creator of my reality and my energy, which is my thoughts, feelings, and actions, are what create my reality, and I don't focus on those things, of course I don't trust myself. Of course I trust the outside world because that's where my focus is. That's what the world has taught us, right? Self-trust is about thinking, I don't need you to like my idea for me to implement. I don't need you to tell me that it's okay to go do this. I don't need you to like me for me to like myself. I don't need somebody else telling me how to run my business when I know that I want to run my business this way. And this is a muscle like anything else. You're not going to wake up tomorrow after 40, 50, 60 years of, judging yourself and being unkind to yourself and saying mean things to yourself. You're not going to wake up tomorrow and trust. Like, think about it. If you were in a relationship with another human, like you are in a relationship with yourself, and I know this feels a little esoteric and weird, but stick with me. If you were that conversation that's happening in your head all the time between the human you, your ego, and your soul, those are the two voices, right? That's why there's two voices. That's why when you ask a question, you get an answer, right? You are not your thoughts. You're the thinker of your thoughts, right? You're the spiritual being who's hearing the human thoughts, right? They're not yours. But the thing is, like I said, most of them are very unkind, and we're having this conversation. But if you've not read the book, The Untethered Soul, and this conversation is speaking to you, The Untethered Soul, he does a beautiful job. Michael Singer does a beautiful job of explaining. He calls it the roommate in your head. And if the roommate in your head were a real human and really followed you around and said the things that the voice in your head says, you would have it committed, right? Like you would think it was so insane that you would have it committed, right? But that's the relationship we have with ourselves. We have this crazy person who says the most ridiculous things in the world, and we believe every single thing that it says. So then when you start to go on this journey and you want to learn to trust yourself and you want to learn to create, you haven't developed that muscle. It's just like athletes. In the beginning, you're not good, right? It's just like when you start a new business, you're not good. When you start a new job, you're not good. You're not good because you're not good. You're not good because you're not practiced. So self-trust is a relationship that you build, just like you built trust with your spouse, just like you build trust with your friends. You have to rebuild the trust that you have been tearing down for decades. That is how you build trust with yourself, is you start keeping the commitments to yourself. You tell yourself, I'm going to get up and walk 3 days a week, and you do it. You tell yourself, I'm not going to have any snacks after dinner, and you do it. You tell yourself that you're going to put $100 a month in a savings account or $100 a week in a savings account, and you do it. You tell yourself you're not going to yell at your kids, and you do it. You tell yourself that you're going to reach out to 10 people every day, and you do it. That is how you build trust with yourself. The number of people that want like, this self-trust thing is hard. Yeah. Because you actually have to keep the commitments to yourself. And it's way easier to let yourself off the hook and then be mean to yourself. I know. We all do it. But you get to choose to build a relationship with yourself. And because you are the creator of your reality, because you are powerful, it is the best work that you will ever do. There is no other work in the world that I have found that is more rewarding than being able to trust yourself. By keeping commitments to yourself, by learning to speak nicely to yourself. Right? You wouldn't trust somebody who spoke to you the way you speak to you either. That's why you don't trust yourself. And I know that like this whole self-love thing is annoying as shit because you've got goals to hit and bills to pay and people who depend on you. And it feels so unreasonable, right? You're like, come on, Ryan, you're telling me the key to all my problems is to love myself. Yes. And I understand your skepticism because remember, my story is your story. I have not always been this person. I've not always been this person. I played the mind game better than most. I truly believe that to be true. And now I'm playing the energy game better than most because I realized that I was done abandoning myself. I realized that I was done putting other people's needs, wants, and desires above my own. I decided I was done, sick and fucking tired of lying to myself. So I made a choice. Was it easy? No. Was it worth it? So if you want to trust yourself, you're going to have to do some uncomfortable things, like actually get your ass out of bed and do the things that you said you were going to do. Like actually take that risk that you're terrified of taking. You're going to have to do that. That's part of self-trust. But it starts with one thing at a time, one choice at a time. It's going to require a shit ton of faith and a whole lot of patience and grace because you're not going to be perfect at this in the beginning. That's the thing, because you're such a high achiever and you're so good at what you do. You think that tomorrow I'm going to learn to trust myself and I'm going to be an expert at it tomorrow. And when you're not an expert at it tomorrow or the next day, you're like, fuck this. This is bullshit. This doesn't work. And you're over here, way down the mind game and the bullshit, right? This is a game of momentum. This is a game of compounded energy. Every time you honor yourself, every time you take the walk, reach out to the person, save the money, make the purchase, say the nice thing, do the breath work, do the journaling, whatever it is, every time you do that, you are brick by brick by brick building a relationship with yourself. You start building in the trust bank, right? You've heard that probably. I think that's maybe a corporate word. I don't know where that came from. It just popped into my brain, right? But you start building the trust bank. Right now, we have nothing in our trust bank. Our trust banks are in a negative balance, right? So in the beginning, we have to bring the negative balance up to neutral, and then we start to build. The problem is most people never make it to neutral. They put 3 deposits into the trust bank, and when they're not getting millions back out, they're like, fuck, this doesn't work. No, it doesn't. Because you cannot withdraw from a bank that you are not depositing into. You want self-trust. You want ease. You want flow. You want magic. You want to manifest all the things on your vision board. But you have to build the trust bank. You have to pay into the trust bank. And what's beautiful is the way you pay into the trust bank is simply doing the things that you tell yourself that you are going to do. Keep your commitments to yourself. And there are going to be days when you don't do that. But that doesn't mean that we are off track or we are done. It just means, okay, today I took a withdrawal. Tomorrow I'm going to make a deposit. It doesn't have to be a whole nother day. You can make this morning, I yelled at my kids. I lost my temper. I got impatient and I lost my shit, right? Okay. And so this morning I took a withdrawal from the trust bank, but I'm going to deposit into the trust bank because I'm going to take the walk I said I was going to. I'm going to reach out to the 3 people I said I was going to, and I'm going to sit down and spend some quality time with my spouse today. And I haven't done that in a long time. So yeah, that's how I'm going to deposit into my trust bank. I hope that this helps. I would love your feedback on the format of this. I try to keep the pods between 20 or 30 minutes. And so I don't always have 30 minutes to talk about one topic, but this one, like I said, these are the 3 most common conversations I'm having right now about clarity and vision, right? About what do I do if the people around me aren't playing the same game, they're not playing the energy game, and then how do I learn to trust myself? These are 3 really big topics. They're coming up with my clients, they're coming up in business therapy, they're coming up in even like prospects and people considering working with me. So that's what I'm sharing. You guys let me know, do we like this idea of like rapid fire topics? Is this something that serves you well? And then as usual, if the podcast serves you, please share it. If you haven't left a review, I would so appreciate it. And I just love you, and I'm glad you're here, and I'll see you next week. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Uncensored Self podcast. If this conversation cracked something open for you, trust that that's the work. And share this episode with a woman in your life who's ready to stop performing and start creating. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe, leave a review. It helps this message reach the women who need it most. Remember, you're the creator. The rules are yours, and your uncensored self, she already knows what to do. Keep leading, keep listening, keep becoming.